Hello, hello. Today we're going to talk about insulin, another incredibly important, significant, highly volatile hormone that can cause a lot of issues when it's imbalanced. Yesterday, I talked to you about what did I talk to you? Sex hormones, estrogen yesterday. You have more than one sex hormone. Estrogen is one of them. Progesterone for males is testosterone. Those are your sex hormones. Insulin is one of your metabolic hormones, thyroid hormones being the other metabolic hormones that you've got. Today, I'm just going to talk about insulin. And tomorrow, I'm going to talk about cortisol. So all of these hormones combined are responsible for so many different functions in the body, almost all of the functions in the body, whether reproductive, whether digestive, whether metabolic, whether your moods, really everything. So it's so key to make sure that these hormones stay in balance. When they're imbalanced, it's not because we always tend to blame the hormones, but when we see a symptom of a hormonal imbalance, the hormone itself is not the culprit. The hormone is just trying to cope with what you're doing to it. It's trying to deal and it's trying to manage with the best way that it can internally with what you are literally feeding it, whether that's what you're eating, what you're drinking, what you're thinking, how you're dealing with your stress triggers, the air you breathe, the chemicals that you put on your skin. All of these things have to be internalized in your body, processed in your body, broken down in your body, and they affect the way that your hormones function. So one of the key takeaways I want you to really know and understand about your body and your hormones and your organs and your systems is that your body doesn't just break down and all of a sudden turn against you. It never does that. Your body is always working for you. And in so many ways that you can never even see or feel, it's working behind the scenes. And when you get a symptom or some kind of dis-ease or some kind of discomfort, it's not because the body has broken down. It's because your body's trying to communicate with you that something that you're doing, something that you're taking in, something that you think should be working isn't actually working. And so the body sort of knocks from the inside out and says, you know what? This is not working for us right now. Can we please shift? Can we please do something a little bit differently? We take these symptoms as a reason to panic. We think our body's breaking down. We think we're getting sick. We think this is old age. And we're told that there's nothing you can do about it for the most part. So take a step back and I invite you to start to reframe this and start to see your body as this friend. It's on your side. It's always on your side. So when we talk about insulin, everybody knows that insulin is the hormone that's basically involved with any kind of blood sugar imbalances. So diabetes, prediabetes, insulin resistance, automatically we blame poor insulin for malfunctioning and giving us this dis-ease. But what does insulin actually do? What was it created to do? Like all of your hormones, it was created for a specific function. It wasn't created to malfunction. It wasn't created to give you diabetes. It wasn't created to give you pre-diabetes or insulin resistance. It wasn't created to create a problem. It was created for a very specific function. And that function is key in the way that you survive and the way that you have energy and the way that you wake up every day. And that is to move your source of energy, your fuel, your sugar from the foods that you eat into your cells. That's the primary function of insulin. It needs to move whatever fuel and energy source you're taking into your body, move that from your bloodstream into your cells. We keep talking about cells because everything that happens to you is a result of what's happening to the 100 trillion cells in your body. Are they functioning or malfunctioning? Are they full of toxicity or not full of toxicity? Are they deficient in key vitamins and minerals or not? Are they more acidic, meaning you're eating a lot of foods that raise the temperature of your blood and that leads to disease? Or are they more alkaline? Are they more cool because you're eating more cooling and calming foods that prevent the body from breeding disease? All of this goes down to your cells. So where do your cells get their nutrition from? Insulin is the one responsible for bringing in the crucial sugar that your body needs to function. Your cells need sugar to function. And insulin is the hormone that makes sure that your cells get this sugar in order for them to thrive, in order for them to have energy. But your cells don't want just any kind of sugar. They only recognize a very specific type of sugar, and that's the sugar that comes and occurs naturally from fruits and some vegetables like potatoes, carrots, some of the starchy vegetables. That's where sugar, natural sugar, sugar that's been created by God for millions of years, created with us and for us, the sugar that our body recognizes only comes from fruits and certain vegetables. That's it. And your cells only recognize and only need and can only process and make use of this natural God-created sugar that's been with us for millions of years. So what does insulin do? When you eat an apple, when you eat a pear, when you eat a mango, when you eat a potato, when you eat anything that's filled with natural sugar, what we call carbohydrates, essential carbohydrates, not processed carbohydrates. There's a difference. I'm going to talk about it. When we look at carbohydrates, when they tell you you need carbohydrates, they're talking about fruits and vegetables. Fruits and vegetables are the essential original carbohydrates that our body burns for energy and uses the sugar in them for energy. Insulin recognizes that sugar right away. When you eat an apple, when you eat a mango, when you eat a potato, insulin is going to take the sugar from that and it's going to drive it into the cells. The cells are going to open up and say, yes, thank you so much. Give us all of this sugar. We're ready to take it in. This is exactly what we want. The body will, the insulin is produced in your pancreas. So the pancreas will pump a little bit of insulin to do its job. So your insulin will rise a little bit. It's supposed to. You're supposed to have little tiny spikes of insulin because that's how insulin does its job. It can't do its job being steady. When you give it a source of sugar, pancreas pumps the insulin just a little bit so insulin can drive the sugar into your cells, and then the insulin comes back down again. And then you go have another healthy source of sugar, another healthy meal. The pancreas pumps a little bit more insulin. The insulin drives the sugar into the cells. Their cells are perfectly happy. The insulin comes back down again. And if your body is in this cycle and continuously having a little bit of an insulin spike and then come down, a little bit of insulin spike and then come down, this is what's supposed to happen. You're going to be perfectly healthy. We're supposed to have an ebb and flow of insulin on a daily basis. People who are so tuned into whether something's going to spike their insulin or not, or completely avoiding insulin spikes, are missing the point. Saying that insulin should never spike, or we should never see an increase in insulin when you eat something and when insulin is trying to do its job, is exactly like saying when you go running, your heart rate shouldn't go up. When you go running, that's a different requirement. Your heart rate needs to go up to give you the energy and to keep up with what you're doing. So when you eat and the insulin needs to drive the food into your cells, that's different than your resting state. The insulin needs to be pumped up, do its job, and then it comes down again. So it's supposed to do this several times a day. That's perfectly fine. The problem happens when this happens. When you try to force feed your cells the sugar that it doesn't recognize, the processed, ultra-processed, fake sugar from ultra-processed, processed foods. Fake sugar. Thing is, your body is just programmed to try and feed the cells. So when you eat a piece of bread, when you eat a bowl of pasta, when you eat your cakes and your cookies and your bagels and your cereals, when you eat any of that and the junk, ultra-processed junk, insulin is still going to try and take this processed, fake, artificial, toxic sugar into your cells. But what's going to happen is the cells are really smart. They're like, no, that's not the sugar that we want. Please bring us our natural God-given sugar. This is man-made processed sugar made in a factory. We don't recognize this. There's no such thing as an essential processed carbohydrate. Where are our natural God-given carbohydrates? Insulin's like, you know what? That's all I've got today. That's all she's eaten. She's only had, bread for breakfast and another sandwich for lunch. And she had pasta for dinner. Like, there isn't a fruit in sight. This is all we've got today. It's just this source of sugar. So the cells are like, you know what? It's better than nothing, because if we don't take this sugar, we get nothing. So they reluctantly allow the insulin to drive in this processed sugar. one time, two times, a few times, but then the cells are like, you know what? No, we let this happen once. We let it happen 10 times, 15 times. We don't want this sugar. Please keep this sugar away. And you keep eating the bread and the pasta and the cereals and the cakes and the cookies and the granola and the oats and the rice and all the things that raise blood sugar levels in a way that you don't want it to be raised. Finally, the cells get fed up. So insulin here is trying again to move this processed sugar into the cells. The cells start to become resistant. They say, enough is enough. This is not the sugar that we want. We're not going to take in this sugar anymore. But insulin keeps trying really hard because it's its job to do this. So the pancreas will pump the insulin. Insulin will try really hard to bring this crappy sugar into the cells. The cells say no. Pancreas is like, okay, let's pump a little bit more insulin, see if this time we can drive this crappy sugar into the cells. So more insulin gets pumped in. Cells say no. And this is how you get to the first stage of imbalanced blood sugar levels, which is called insulin resistance. The resistance is happening from the cells. They don't want the processed sugar that insulin is trying to bring in. And the body keeps pumping more and more insulin to drive the sugar in. The cells are like, we don't want it. And then it goes from that phase to pre-diabetes to diabetes. The problem isn't insulin. Insulin is just trying to do its job basically in a hostile territory. It's trying to move whatever source of sugar you're giving it the wrong kind of sugar. It's trying to make do. It's trying to say, right, we're not getting the right sugar. We're not getting apples and mangoes and grapes and watermelons and potatoes and sweet potatoes and carrots. We're not getting any of that. We're getting cakes and cookies and oatmeal and bread and pasta. And you know what? This is all there is. So the body tries to make do with this until it can't anymore. And then this is when you end up with the very high insulin levels because the body keeps pumping insulin, trying to do its job. The insulin stays up here and it stays elevated for a long period of time. Instead of settling down the way it would with an apple or an orange or a grape or a potato, it stays up here and you keep giving it more processed carbs. So it stays up here constantly. That's the problem with elevated insulin, not the natural ebb and flow when it just does its job, moves the sugar, and then rests again. And then pumps again, moves the sugar, does its job, and then rests again. This is so key to understand that insulin and all your hormones, when you see a malfunction, when you see an imbalance, is because they're trying to do their job in a hostile terrain. We have to stop blaming our hormones and blaming our body for not being able to function in a terrain and under circumstances it wasn't programmed to function in. So luckily, this is such an easy fix. Balancing blood sugar levels is such an easy fix because as soon as you take out the wrong source of sugar, bread, pasta, cereals, cakes, cookies, bagels, oats, rice, junk food, all that processed stuff, as soon as you remove it and you replace it with the right sugar that the body needs, that the body recognizes, more importantly, as fuel, it might take a few weeks, but that insulin will come back down again. And we sort of have to retrain the insulin a little bit to just come up a little bit as it's meant to do, give you the right sugar and come back down again. So you stay insulin resistant for a little bit, even after you remove the processed carbs. And that's fine because you've probably been insulin resistant for a long time. But what you see happening is an incredible, miraculous return to balance in your body. And where you see the body, when you simply just give it what it understands and what it can process and what it knows, it will heal itself. All you have to do is remove the source of the toxicity, all the processed carbs, processed, ultra-processed junk food, remove them completely and replace them with the natural, God-given, carbohydrates that have been around for a million of years that for some reason now are being blamed for everything. But let me tell you this, there isn't a single person in this world that has ever gotten any form of diabetes because they overconsumed fruits. Not one. So anybody tells you that if you have a blood sugar imbalance, you have insulin resistance, you have prediabetes, you have diabetes, you have PCOS, which is an issue in your reproductive system that tends to cause blood sugar issues, and you're told don't eat fruits, this is a mistake. In addition to being the right sugar that your body needs for fuel, fruits are incredibly healing, and they have the most healing properties, even more than vegetables. They're the only foods that have live, because you eat them raw. Most people eat fruits raw. Very rarely do we eat them cooked. Because we eat them raw, they've got live vitamins. No other food has that. Live minerals, live antioxidants, live enzymes. And they have a very specific live hydration that is only available in fruits, obviously in raw vegetables as well. That is healing. Fruits heal. Nobody gets diabetes from eating fruits. All my clients who have come off their diabetes medication did it eating fruits. So if you have a diagnosed blood sugar imbalance, so if you have insulin resistance, prediabetes, or diabetes, or you suspect that you might have, or you might have PCOS, other symptoms, sort of precursors to being diagnosed with a blood sugar imbalance, are a receding hairline. If you are constantly hungry, like no matter how much you eat, you're always craving food, this is a sign of a blood sugar imbalance, because when you eat processed carbohydrates, you could literally eat a bowl of pasta this big, and your cells will still be starving. So you could eat volumes and volumes of food, and an hour later, you feel like you need to eat again. That's a symptom of an insulin or blood sugar imbalance issue. If you have any of these symptoms, diagnosed or not, and you want to reverse them, I can help you do this in the hormone detox program. If you don't have any of these issues, but you'd like to reprogram your terrain and reprogram your insulin and make sure that moving forward, you don't develop any blood sugar issues, especially if you have this gene in your family, right? It doesn't mean you're going to get it. Just because your father, your mother, your grandparents, everybody you know has diabetes doesn't mean you're going to get it. The only reason you would also get it is if you continue to eat and live in exactly the same way that they have. But if you decide you want to break this pattern, if you decide I'm done, I'm going to be the first person in my family not to get any diabetes or insulin resistance or any kind of issue, you can do that. So if you also want to prevent an illness from developing, then come into the hormone detox program and I can show you how to do that. Message me today if you have any questions at all about your health or your hormones or the program, and I can't wait to work with you.